Okay, we're live and we are recording. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Thirsty Thursday, July 2nd, July 4th weekend. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
They had us in the first half. We're not going to lie. That's been going around a lot on Twitter.
Have us in the first half, and it's going to be all fun and games. Everyone's going to celebrate the 4th. Some people will social distance, some will not. And then in 2 weeks, we're here. An explosion. COVID is back stronger than it ever was. Blah, 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 blah. See states go back into lockdown. People start to get really testy about it. Hate to say it, but who saw it coming? Who could have saw it coming?
Who could have seen this coming, that you're all of a sudden you're the one out on the ledge and now I'm trying to pull you back?
Yeah, it's
I've never been this pessimistic about anything.
I'm not even pessimistic about it. I just know it happened. I wouldn't be pessimistic. I would say it's realist because there is clearly going to be a spike in COVID again. And it's already happening. And you say what you want about, whatever, the more you test, the more cases there. But like how this is my question. My uneducated, not completely medical professional question. How does it end? How do you eliminate? How do you stop it? It's either the virus or the herd immunity. Those are the only two options for this ending, or vaccine. I mean, not a virus. Yeah. Vaccine or with herd immunity. So we don't have a vaccine, and we're not near herd immunity. Herd immunity, I believe, I did a scholarly article. It said 70% of the US population has to have had it. So that's what 200 million Americans have to have it to achieve a herd immunity where it stops. So it's like around a hard place, and it's just gonna get bad. It's just gonna get bad again. It's politicized, obviously. So fall where you want on it, but you can agree the virus is very much a weapon of the media, a weapon of the administration, all that stuff. So it's just going to be a shit show. It's just going to be a complete shit show again over the next month. People are sick of the social distancing and stuff. So it's going to reach a really bad boiling point in like late July, early August.
Yeah, I can see it happening. The spike has definitely happened again already to some degree, like you mentioned there. The second wave, or whatever you want to call it, seems to have started to kick back up as some of these states that were taking maybe more lax precautionary measures early on, Arizona, Texas, they're already starting to see a big time spike in those cases. They're starting to close down a lot of the things that they had already begun to reopen. So it's a very tough scene. Like you mentioned, it is a heavily politicized thing, I think, from both sides at this point. And it's a complicated issue. And I guess it is a political issue now. And with political issues, what a lot of people don't realize is that, like, 100% of the time, pretty much, not everyone is going to be happy with any decision that you make. There's always going to be somebody that's benefiting and somebody that is not seeing any benefit. And
there will always be a minority and a micro minority for every decision. And that's why it's difficult for people to step outside of their own entity, their own self, and think, oh, this might be shitty for me, but I get why this government body or this company is making this decision, because 80% of the people this decision was made for, it's going to help them, but it screws me. So you can never please. You're never going to please every single person, especially in today's society, unless you're the Baltimore Ravens and you win a Super Bowl in 2020, 2021.
That's going to displease a lot of people, I'll tell you that. But
everyone will be happy. Everyone on earth will be happy.
Good point. But yeah, I don't know. It's a situation where maybe they are going to go forward with continuing to just reopen and just take this thing in the face and try to do the herd immunity thing. Maybe it's just going to be sit around and wait for a vaccine for God knows how long that's ever going to take. And there's just the only way forward is through. And it's not going to be easy. It might affect football, which seems to have you also down a little bit, which I hate to see, because I hate to see you down and out. But
definitely has me anxious. And the thing about the vaccine before we transition it into football is that, like, it's not going to be like, if me and you were both just, in a lab working on vaccines, we're highly regarded.
That's a very realistic scenario too.
And we end up figuring out the vaccine. We get it. We're like, holy crap, Jake, we did it. This cures coronavirus. It doesn't just go and get dispersed a week later the red tape surrounding that, different companies are going to be the one to profit the most, and how they can buy it and sell it and all that stuff. It's going to be a while. Coronavirus is going to be a while.
Bill Simmons was talking to Michael Lewis about that, I think maybe a few weeks or even months ago at this point. And it's like, whoever gets it first, it might not even be the US. It might be another country. And then they're going to be concerned about getting it to their people first and foremost. And then maybe the countries around them or whatever allies that they have. And it's not just going to get around the world with like ease and aplomb within however short a time period it's going to be. It's
and money, big money is going to jump on it and want to buy it and have it and control it and patent it and stuff. So that is just like the whole underbelly underworld of going to happen with that. And we're going to be at the mercy of it until that happens. And it's like, Fauci, there was that crazy conspiracy video about the woman who basically was like saying how Fauci's an animal, but Fauci really did prevent an AIDS medication from, hitting the market. Like 2 years, he tied it up in the early 80s so that he could end the patent and profiting on it. And that's all been, well documented and a reality. And that it is capitalism. That's capitalistic medicine.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, there's no way around it.
No way around it. Here we are now. Florio saying that the NFL is already cut. They've already decided 2 preseason games are cut, and he's going to have a post about it. So they're going to give him the news guest. Some, Pelissero and Rappaport and Schefter will all be tweeting about that in the next 48 hours. I mean, probably what do the Ravens have the Redskins last?
I think so. Yeah,
is it 14? Something like that in Baltimore against, and then in DC against the Redskins.
I think so.
Which is weird. So the only preseason games against teams that they play against the regular season. If that's the case, be traveling far. Got to think training camp is going to be closed to the public. I think they're going to be able to training camp this month with fans in the stands. Hopefully we're able to get Buzz in there still. See if I can finagle my way in there as well for a couple of the sort and get some passes and cover it for you guys. As tons of rookies, tons of good stuff going on, but that might be fun. Might be pretty fun. Players love having training camp in front of the fans a bit, and it adds an extra little competitiveness to it. And some people play better that way, whatever. But it's going to be a lot less noise, less distractions, a lot more down to the brass tacks of getting better and getting into training camp. So those are COVID transitioning into how it's going to directly affect the Ravens, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, there was also a report circulating on Twitter about how they probably do want to try and get fans in some capacity into the stadium this year. I kind of just don't really see that happening at this point. I already sort of didn't. And now with this second wave that we're facing, we were kind of already mentally preparing for it a while ago, but it's very much here. And it just seems like a tough reality that you're going to be cramming all these people into a stadium, regardless of how social distance they are. I mean, once you have fans, then you're talking about concessions, you're talking about tickets, you're talking about security, you're talking about all this extra stuff that has to be implemented to augment or at least circulate the fan experience in the way that it typically is. So it's going to be a weird scenario. And I think football is going to happen this year, contrary to what some people think. And I think what you're thinking and maybe your most Eeyore type moments here recently, but it's not going to look the same, and it might not be on the same schedule that we're seeing right now. Hall of Fame game already canceled. Like you mentioned, the 2 preseason games probably going to be cut. So yeah, man, it's weird, and I hate to kick the show off like this. We're heading into a holiday weekend here. Let's get some positive mojo going.
Oh, we are heading into holiday weekend. So birthday, following up the next week, July 10th, July 4th.
Yeah.
Who could? Actually, next year for my 28th birthday, I am double booked 2 weddings on my birthday, invited to both. One, a very good friend of mine, one, a very good friend of Fran's. So not only am I going to be at a wedding on my birthday, I might be flying solo to a wedding on my birthday in 2021.
This kind of feels like it's going to be the last big one that you can just really go all out in for at least, 2 years, right?
No, my last big one, I'll definitely do it up for 30, but my 25th, I went to AC and we went balls to the wall for that one. So this is going to be a chill one. I'll be at the beach. Will be social distancing because I want to watch football in the fall. 4th of July. Weather's beautiful. It's been wildly sunny in good old Maryland, and all around summer's here at least. Not in the normal capacity, but there's been plenty of silver linings from COVID. Going outside, doing more in nature, kind of fixing a home situation, enjoying yourself at home, all that good stuff. So there's definitely been a ton of positive from the situation, despite tragic loss and widespread and all that stuff. So there's been some good for some silver linings for sure, and I feel some of those directly. I mean, encourage me to run, or encourage you and Kyle now getting on the running. So there is good to be taken away from it. But if there is not football in the fall, there's no good. There's no silver lining. It was all a sham, a hopeless sham.
I can't hear you like this. You're the most ebullient, positive person in my life, and you keep me up when I'm down. I can't have
usually I just writing on the wall of where this is going in the next month, and it's gonna be trying times. 2020 is truly going to be one for the history books. We're in the first half, concluded now into the second half. So all's kicked off. 4th of July is basically like 4th of July is Jacoby Jones catching it on the 109 yards into the end zone in Super Bowl.
Turned out to be 8.
And 108 yards. Yeah, it really was. But
they should have
catching the ball 8 yards deep in the end zone, taking it to the house. That's 4th of July, and the blackout comes right out. Boom. July 20th is going to be like fear, panic, media, Fox News, CNN, blah 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 blah.
I don't know how you watch that shit, man.
I don't actually watch. I don't watch it.
Yeah, I don't know. My parents do sometimes, and even in normal times, I'm just like, I don't know how you watch daytime TV, or what do you call it, the 24-hour news cycle. I just can't watch it. I think it's because I'm on Twitter all day, and that's where I get majority of my news, and I'm just inundated by it constantly.
I don't watch it. Other people around me do. So I see it, and I just always shake my head, and it's like Fox and CNN having two entities like that is just like it creates such a clear divide between people. I don't know. No one sees through how not. All doing it for the clip, all for the views. They say one thing, the other says the other. Feel one way or the other. Vote yourself to that, and that's all they care about. They don't actually care about the issue that they're broadcasting about and all that good stuff. So I always I laugh when I watch it. It's funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, it literally just turned into what ESPN and FS1 are now, which is just the studio shows, and we're just going to go back and forth. Am I just?
D lost so hard, just go ham. Can't get on Twitter.
Oh god! Shout out to Ian Schultz, man.
Spenny is an Anakin Skywalker turn.
It's a tough scene, man. MD lost so hard getting some Twitter withdrawal going on. He got his IP banned. I think it's mostly the regular ban. Clown, man.
You're done. You're done. You're gonna. I'm not gonna. I may, or I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna get myself in trouble.
Yeah,
it's just been there before.
Not getting in trouble. Like I said, we got a 3-day weekend coming up. We're just going positive vibes. Let's just try to approach this like we want, like a nice Rogan episode where we're just sitting here, just having a nice light conversation, and it's fun.
It is fun. We're shooting the shit right now. Not crazy amount to talk about Ravens wise, but some things, definitely some things.
Couple things. I mean, so we're talking about whether football is going to happen or not. Should we just talk about some football?
Yeah, let's talk about some football. If football happens.
So the big news, obviously, that has gotten out since the last time you and I recorded, I think since the last time even Walton West put an episode out, is that Cameron Jarrell Newton, formerly of the Carolina Panthers, formerly of the Auburn Eagles, or Auburn Tigers.
War Eagle,
whatever. Fuck. Formerly of Blinn College.
Formerly Florida Gator.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Former tight end of the Florida Gators has signed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots. It's a minimum veteran deal that is heavily incentivized towards him playing well in 2020. So a 1-year deal, Cam Newton to the Patriots. Jarrett Stidham truthers, eat your heart out.
The interesting part here for Cam Newton is that it's a veteran minimum. So genuinely, my question is just, can he throw the football? Can he, spin the ball right now? It looks like Ben, he's whistling because Big Ben's making $30 million this year. So he better be able to throw a $30 million football, $30 million spiral. Is Cam Newton throw an $800,000 spiral? That's not the Cam Newton that we know and love. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about Cam and when he was left. I mean, 2018, the Lamar's rookie year, not long ago at all, Cam was ripping through football until he got in
season,
about halfway in. We saw the Panthers season Lamar ended up starting. They kicked the Ravens' ass. We're having, I never hated Cam at all, and then I see him handing the ball out in the stands, like laughing at the Ravens, and I was like, I still love you, but so I'm interested. I compare it to Andrew Luck's situation in a way. It's shoulders, big bruised quarterback. What do they have in the tank? It feels like Cam has no wit, and Luck was able to walk away and be happy with where he was, but it feels like Cam's not satisfied ending career that way. So he wants to. Luck didn't end his career exactly the same way. He had a playoff before he ended up retiring, but just curious to see what he. Obviously, it looks like physically he's able to run, jump, freaking hit, all that. But I'm just curious what's in that right shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. But honestly, the way I look at it, I'm pretty fascinated by the whole scenario. I think the incentivization of the contract is a pretty good scenario for both parties. I saw Richard Sherman getting a little chirpy about how they were like not respecting him or whatever. And I sort of go back and forth on it. Like, I've always loved Cam too. I think he's a tremendous player. And I think if he is healthy, he's got a big comeback on the horizon. But I do understand the trepidation around signing a guy who's had injury issues for the last couple of years. And I do understand, a lot of people were chirping about them not signing him, trying to like compare him to like Kaepernick weirdly. I was like, dude, come on. Like, this guy's going to get signed. He's going to find a home eventually. There's just, not a whole lot of open spaces for him to go and play right now where he's not going to be challenging an established starter and sort of taking a little bit of that spotlight, maybe where he's not going to be intimidating a younger guy a la a Sam Darnold. If that's where to look into him, that's going to be kind of weird for Sam Darnold if they sign Cam Newton as a backup. So just go sign Joe Flacco. He'll fit that role pretty well. So Cam Newton, the one place that I could have really have seen it happening was New England, where give me all the Jarrett Stidham mythology you want, Pats fans. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying Brian Hoyer is suddenly going to come back.
We'll when we see it.
Yeah, exactly. And, as far as I'm concerned, it's probably not going to happen now because you bring in Cam, and you mentioned the idea of him throwing a really good ball. He's been a pretty good deep ball thrower throughout his career, especially that MVP season in 2015, and then a couple of years after that, obviously. But I look at this Josh McDaniels offense. I look at the personnel they have in Edelman, these running backs, and the fact that with Brady, they were able to manufacture some pretty good offenses with the short passing game. And I know that you've mentioned that Brady was better with the deep ball, and they challenged it deep a lot more than people maybe really perceive. But just upon the eye test, it does look like they're well suited to be able to do the quick passing game and the short runs and maybe get Cam involved in the short runs. And I do think back a lot to 2017, I believe. That was the year Brady got suspended, right? Or was that 16? I think 16.
6.
Yeah, it was 16. So Brady got suspended in 16 for 4 games. Garoppolo starts off the season pretty hot. He was like a third-year player at that point. And then they had a rookie, Jacoby Brissett, also in the mix. So Garoppolo gets injured. They have, I think, their third game against the Texans. Brissett has to start, basically the emergency guy. They throw him in there. They basically run the single wing with Brissett. Like, they're just running him all over the field. And he's developed into a better passer, but they're basically just like not even using the
also not like Brissett is athletic, but he's not like he's Big Ben. He's Big Ben athletic, like young Big Ben athletic. He's not like
he'll get you where you want to go. But they were basically just doing what some of the stuff that you saw with Lamar in his rookie year with Brissett. And in that sense, I think Cam is much better suited to do that. You probably don't want to do too much of it with his age and the fact that, like we mentioned, health has been an issue. But I am very, very intrigued by this partnership. And all of a sudden, I'm not so willing to hand the Bills the crown to the AFC East. I think it's still going to be a pretty tough matchup. But honestly, Bill Belichick and a quarterback of this talent and this pedigree, I think they're going to make something work. I don't know if it's going to be 2015 Cam MVP, but I think he's set himself up well with the right situation. And, if he goes in there with the right mindset to have a nice little comeback here in 2020.
Sure. And you even go back to Josh McDaniels his time with Tim Tebow, who is basically the poor man's Cam Newton as a quarterback, and some of the things they were able to do. And Cam, his shoulder's messed up, but he has a throwing issue, not a physical like a toll on his body issue. He is still fast, strong, big for contact, all that stuff. So it's just going to depend. And there's Danielle Rossini and people tweeting out basically Patriots still like Stidham. They still like Stidham, and yeah, but as I believe it when I see it. If we're going to go with Stidham, and Stidham turns out to be a stud, I don't have, I scouted in college. He was fine. I've, had like a 4th round grade on him or a 3rd round grade on him. He can make some throws and like that, but I have nothing to tell me that he's going to be a successful NFL passer, a top 15 back in the NFL, anything. So, nothing easier. So you're going to have to trot him out there and see that if you're going to start him over Cam. I see all that, and it's not going to be justified unless Stidham is, 4-2 halfway through the year. In that range, 5-2, they're winning games. He's protecting the ball. Their offense is somewhat efficient. It just feels very unlikely that Stidham is going to get chosen over Cam Newton, who is, from what and everything that I've ever watched and watched on show, whatever the hell, anything I've ever taken in about Cam, he's a genius of a quarterback as far as reading coverage and understanding where at the defense and all that. He always has been student of the him and Kuechly, freaking boys, watching film like Lycos, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So that's Belichick. I think that Belichick, has always loved the idea of a mobile quarterback and the world that it can unleash. And obviously, he's happy that he had Brady for so long. But if Brady ducked out 8 years ago, you better believe Belichick would have a quarterback that he can run a full offense and incorporate some of these. I mean, the Patriots have always been gimmicky. They've always, done the double back pass, the reverses, tricky screen, the, unbalanced lines and all that different shit and toying with rule things. So you better believe that, there's a possibility if Cam Newton experiment goes well and he's, let's say, 80% of his MVP self or 80% of his MVP self in New England, Ravens are going to be facing a really similar team to themselves. They're going to be, kind of looking in the mirror, a defense that's somewhat smart, blitzes a lot, runs a lot of cover one, and Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson are, able to orchestrate the kind of offense, ball fakes, and all that good stuff. So it could be a very interesting matchup for the Ravens down the road.
Yeah, and it could be a situation where you have maybe Edelman is, kind of a quasi Steve Smith for him. You have N'Keal Harry, Kelvin Benjamin obviously has not gone on to have a tremendous career, but he had a great rookie year in 2014. So you get a big, strong target that he can maybe go to a little bit on the outside there. So it feels like the pieces are in place for him to have a little bit of success. So very intrigued by the move. And there's finally, I think I heard this around the NFL podcast. There's finally some excitement around the Patriots. They were shaping up to be a very boring team in 2020.
Patriot fans are through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are. Some of them were very much on this whole Stidham train, and they're now trying to convince themselves that Stidham is still going to be the starter and everything. It's just a weird, scenario for some of those guys, but they were shaping up to be a very weird, boring team that, quite frankly, I didn't believe too much in Stidham. I don't think I would say I fully didn't believe in him, but just like you mentioned, there's not a body of work there for me to fall back on and to really care too much about. So now you throw Cam in there, you got a lot of excitement, and AFC East shaping up to be a pretty fun division, I would say. So yeah, intriguing scenario all around. But I guess that is really, as far as big time NFL news, that's pretty much all we had. You had Clowney talking about how he is starting to narrow down his list of teams that he would be willing to play for. He doesn't have anyone decided on just yet, but he plans to sign prior to the season. He also had Chris Jones of the Chiefs, the defensive lineman, talking about how he might hold out potentially if need be. So a couple of
that'd be so sick.
Yeah, a couple big name guys around the league starting to get some of their stuff out there before training camp is hypothetically going to open.
Right, and once we get into August, there will be some trades or some signings. That last little flurry, the season starts. Teams haven't had their guys in the building, so it's going to be maybe a little before where they haven't been quite able to assess what's going on, how rooms look, where they feel like they're lacking in certain areas. Do they need vet? Do they need, to go in a different direction somewhere along the line? We're seeing baseball trades already start. There's going to be, oh my God, baseball is going to be insane when they open with trades and moves and stuff, condensed and kind of fast, I guess, or maybe not. I don't know, but I would anticipate a lot of trades in baseball. It's going to be curious to see if the Ravens are able to strike and make a move. And people forget they were sniffing around DeAndre Hopkins reportedly, and sniffing around Jamal Adams. So, I mean, they're these talks. They're having discussions. Stuff. It feels like a move some sort will happen before the summer is concluded, and here in the fall, if everything goes according to plan. It feels like Ravens will make a move, probably not going to be a monster move at the time or something, but it just feels like there's too many DaCosta rumors going around for them not trying to pull me. I mean, imagine if they had Andre Hopkins right now and gave one of those second round picks and Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, it would be quite the scenario. Your connection's a little not great right now, so I lost on that, but yeah, I mean, it does feel like there is a lot of smoke surrounding the team, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a move made at all. I mean, but I'm kind of looking at some of these wide receivers that you and Voss have been talking about. Curtis Samuel, hopefully, could be a guy that will be on the market.
Christian is another one that comes to mind.
Christian Kirk,
as well. Yeah, Christian Kirk feels like he could possibly be an odd man out.
Yeah, I would like that very much because he's been pretty productive for a guy who hasn't had a ton of great quarterback options in his few years in the league. Yeah, Christian Kirk would be good. Dez would be good. Think about I feel like the Giants have a lot of guys. You ever think about that? Maybe.
Yeah, they've got Slayton. They've got, Evan Ingram. They've got
Shepard.
What is this? Yeah, Sterling Shepard. I think they have another Shepard. I think they have Russell Shepard.
Russell Shepard, yeah. You got, and then also looking at Tampa Bay. I mean, you got 3 strong tight ends there. Wouldn't hate a move for one of the 2 odd men out, other than Gronk, in Cameron Brate or OJ Howard. Not really sure how the money would look there, but yeah, there's a lot of options out there, and it does feel like a move could be ripe to happen here before camp opens. But speaking of the Ravens, I guess we could touch on some of the news surrounding them. I did want to bring up that our boy Miles Boykin has been working with Gold Feet Global, we've learned, and that the Ravens are going to be looking into him or looking into using him a lot more this season, which we've been pretty much talking up all along.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see if Boykin can be a little more aggressive, a little more shifty, get his feet on him and go attack the damn ball in the air. That's what I really want to see. If Miles Boykin has a good year, it will be because he attacks the ball earlier, goes after the high point, uses his frame and turns, uses that path forward aspect of his game. He has the same build kind of as a guy like Allen Robinson, and we've seen being able to scoop up and make some catches, but a big part of his game is going to be testing catch and the red zone balls. And I feel like he doesn't getting really low out of his breaks and being efficient for how he can move and being clean and things. But I just want to see that aggressive mentality. And I think Gold Fleet Global, really helps to implement that and help emphasize where you need to excel and what part of your game you need to really take advantage of. And for Boykin, it just feels like that. Just go, rise up, take the ball away from people, point, be aggressive. I felt like he was timid past year a little bit. And that to me is really a defining kind of path. Am I going to be those and gets the ball? Am I going to be, the aggressor, the pass catcher, or am I going to be this tall finesse guy who really fills the role of a receiver 3-4 more in that way? If you're not going to, attack, if he wants to attack the ball this year, we saw it in training camp, we saw it in the preseason. He's able to make these fantastic big catch radius plays, but in the regular season, he just felt very small and condensed in catch radius, and really want to see that again and take off because he's a fantastic blocker. He does do a really great job separating, especially at his size. So, those 50 balls and all that stuff will add a huge element to this offense. If he can be a real wide receiver too, like a legit one, like a Mosin a couple years ago, someone like that, that would be awesome. Great thing for this offense who doesn't throw the ball to receivers a ton yet. That would be big for the program.
Yeah, we've seen Hollywood been putting in work all offseason. We've been trumping him up as a guy who is going to have a big 2020. So seeing Boykin working with him and with Gold Feet Global, it's just a great thing, man. It warms my heart as a guy who wants Boykin to break out in a very big way. Some other Ravens news. We had Calais Campbell, our boy Cialis, talking about how coming to the Ravens is a big move for him because he feels like it is going to be his last big shot to win a ring.
And that's what kind of stigma, or I guess stigma's the wrong word, but kind of the mystique of the Ravens. I'm trying to identity. I get that they always are a contender year in and year out, and they're a solid organization. You keep getting third contract guys, and those guys, Anquan Bolden, Derek Mason, Eric Wool. I mean, their identity, Rod Woodson, all the way back, Shannon Sharp have been embedded in this franchise. Trevor Price, Elvis Dumerville. This franchise gets those guys who will ring, who aren't necessarily seeking giant contracts anymore. They've already been paid. They know that they're not in their prime anymore necessarily, but they want to ring. And making Baltimore that destination has been a huge part of this franchise's identity and the way that they, conduct their personal and their roster decisions. So knowing that good, really elite players like Calais Campbell still feel that way in 2020 is a great thing. And obviously the Ravens have great odds to win the Super Bowl. Vegas has them as a super high contender. I think the second or third best odds as we sit here today. And yeah, so all things, are looking green, good to go. And it's always good, always good to hear that the Ravens uphold that reputation of being a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very cool to hear from a fan perspective, to hear players talk about the franchise that you root for like that, because as much as a lot of fans probably do talk about their team as one that likes to go for it and that cares about winning, it's unfortunately not always true in that case, but you definitely do feel it with the Ravens and with the way that Bisciotti approaches running pretty much everything. There's just a sense that he wants to go out and accomplish things with his football team rather than just make money off of it, which is very cool. That's not to say that he's suffering or anything because of it. The guy does very well, obviously. But yeah, to see that investment pay off in the form of praise from veteran players that you bring in to try and help you get over that hump and to help them finally get over that hump and get a ring for themselves. It's very cool, nice little feel-good story that I think we could use here in the what is going to be very soon, the dog days of summer, with a lot of uncertainty lingering in the air. But wanted to bring that up for that reason. Another bit of news was that it looks like Tavon Young is quote unquote ready to go, coming back from his, was it a neck injury? Neck injury?
Neck injury. That's all we know.
Yeah. So he had
They never really gave us any good details on that.
So it's a nebulous neck injury that he had. Nice little alliteration for you there. A nebulous neck injury for Tavon Young that he is now fully back from and ready to go to, well, returning to, quite frankly, a pretty crowded cornerback rotation.
Yeah, and if they only I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Tavon Young, if he's to 100% and plays 16 games, in my opinion, he is the second most valuable cornerback on the Ravens roster. Having a full 16 game at a high level from Tavon might be more valuable than having a full 16 games from Mark Peters or Jimmy Smith. I would say Marlon is probably, but the reason that Tavon to me is so valuable is because he allows Marlon on the boundary. And if Tavon goes down, then Marlon has to go on the slot. And you got Jimmy on the outside, which is fine, but it's just, I feel like it's a drop off in slot cornerback play from Tavon to Marlon, and there's a drop from Marlon to either Marks or Jimmy Smith at this point, as far as playing the Chiefs or playing really explosive wide receiver cores, offenses, and Marlon Humphrey, who can stick with Tyreek Hill to an extent, and with some of those really matchup problems. Marlon's been really great against pretty much every Tyler Lockett over the last couple of years, and Lockett didn't really get him that bad. Got him like 3 times, wasn't like anything too crazy. So Tavon is huge for the program. Turnovers, creeper blitzes, he was damn good at all those. Back to the scoop and score where Patrick Owasso knocked the ball out. Tavon picks it up and scores. They're getting it back in the backfield, and Tavon just that classic, gritty slot blitzer that the Ravens love to have. Had so many guys like it before, and glad to have him back.
Yeah, one of the old adages that I believe Ozzy subscribed to is that you can never have enough cornerbacks. And it's only gotten more and more true the further we've gotten into this passing era. It feels like to be able to stop a team like the Chiefs, you need to have equally as many horses in the defensive back department as they do in the offensive threat department. So it's good to have a guy back in that sense, kind of like that. But yeah, man, you got Humphrey, you got Peters, got Jimmy Smith coming back. I got a couple of safeties that they're going to be rolling out there. So it's going to be maybe a little bit tough for him to get on the field right away, but that's probably a good thing. Looking at his injury history, you know, he obviously has a propensity to not be able to stay healthy, which is unfortunate for him. A lot of freak injuries, nothing super nagging. So maybe if he can just get through one training camp without having that freak injury and, get a couple of games under his belt, he'll start to get rolling and he will have himself a nice 2020 season. That's what I think we all hope for with Tavon Young after signing that contract extension with the team very recently. And just an all-around good guy. I like Tavon Young a lot. I want to see him succeed. So, yeah, nice to have him back in the picture. And then I think our last bit of news that we're going to hit on here, obviously the big news that everyone's been talking about is that Ravens center Bradley Bozeman putting his RV that he drove around the country in up for sale.
He lived in that RV for the past year as well. Him and his wife Nikki stayed in that RV during the Ravens season and had a couple little fun short videos done by the Ravens team and team website and stuff like that. So Bradley Bozeman seemed a really fun guy, really nice guy. To see why John Harbaugh called him a guaranteed starter pretty much, and it feels like he is going to just continue maturing and being that guy in the community that the Ravens like and want to keep around. So, but Bradley Bozeman trending up, RV trending down. Thing looked like a beaut. I've been in some really cheap RVs. Drove one to spring break actually once, Maryland, Florida, and that was quite a time. So I can relate to the RV life, and even though it was a luxury one, and mine was a Cruise America.
A Cruise America. Let's get that story, or at least some details.
Drove from Towson, Maryland to Panama City Beach. 16 people on the way down. We stayed in a condo, and then 4 other kids stayed in an RV that did not drive with us, so they used that to stay in. We stayed in a big condo. It was fun. Played some card games and whatever. Drank some beers and stuff. We got pretty rowdy in the final hour and a half before we got down there, and I remember, my buddy Rob was driving pretty much the whole time, and he was like, "Stop drinking! Everyone, stop drinking! I don't feel like getting in trouble." Blah blah blah. And me and my friend Sam, who's actually about to cut my hair in a little over 2 hours, had just shotgunned a beer, and everyone got really quiet after Rob told everyone to stop drinking, and then Sam just puked right down the middle of the RV, dead down the center of it on the floor, and then everyone just erupted laughing. So good times in the RV.
Is it moving at this point?
What?
Was the RV moving when he choked?
I think in traffic. We were in traffic.
Oh, man.
Pretty heavy traffic.
I don't know if that's worse or if you're moving and flies to the back. Not to get too graphic.
It doesn't work like that. In the RV, there's no wind.
Well, I'm just saying that it's moving. It depends on how fast he's driving. Maybe it could start just rolling at some point. I've always had a dream of doing an RV trip.
RV trips, very fun. Also took one from Atlanta to New Orleans for the Super Bowl because when my mom got tickets to go see the Ravens Super Bowl, the cheapest hotel was $8,000 a night at that point because New Orleans, party city, people there for the Super Bowl no matter what. And we were, last minute Ravens fans. My mom was like, can't really afford 10 grand a night on a hotel. So we stayed in an RV for 2 nights, I think. 3 nights, 2 nights, 3 nights.
That's kind of sick.
It was pretty sick. We had a shower on it, rented one, drove it from Atlanta. We got a flat tire in Alabama. Had to sit there for 5 hours, wait for to come replace an RV tire. It was not fun. But yeah, good times, good RV times. So shout out to the Bones. And
did you see the Bozeman's asking price?
No, I did not.
You want to guess?
$180,000.
Not even close. 46
lower.
46 grand.
Wow. Must not be that big.
We should go in together and buy it, and then we'll drive it to training camp and we'll park it outside and we'll get interviews. And then we could do
That
like
would be
we could do
so
like
sick.
a week where we like drive around. We could call it like I
Like
don't know,
Spit Week.
Spit Week or something like that. Yeah, just something cool where we just like drive an RV around the country and interview people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
That'll be pretty sick. Okay, so I mean that's probably all we have. We're running about 40 minutes. We don't have to go overly long today. Wanted to quickly get a Sandwich Wednesday update. It is Wednesday.
Haven't had my sandwich yet. A lot of people are having their sandwiches. I think we got like 13 submissions so far, something of the sort. And I'm gonna have myself a meaty turkey sandwich. The last thing was Sarah Ellison did a little article on. No, it's all that was our news segment. But Sarah Ellison, who always is great Ravens Twitter figure, if she was an editor for the Ravens website for a while and does some work with Ken McCusick and stuff now. Sure, most of our listeners are familiar with Sarah. She's great, but she quantified some data and put out essentially that there's no correlation between how frequently a quarterback runs the ball and how often they're hurt. And she cited some info from Sports Info Solution and their injury coordinator, who basically determined that of the potential outcomes of a quarterback play, where there could be a hit involved, whether it's a quarterback run, a sack of a quarterback, or a quarterback hit or knockdown taken, that there's about one injury per every 172 runs. So one out of 100, every 172 times quarterback tucked the ball, they got hurt. Whereas with a quarterback hit, quarterbacks got hurt one out of every 55, I think. I went further with that and looked at some data, and I have done some charting of Jackson. I think that what's his name? Matthew Stevens of Ravens Wire had done a similar article, but his left out a couple things that I found important. So essentially what I found is that Lamar Jackson has run the ball 323 times in his NFL career so far. 295 of those have occurred since he took over in week 10 of 2018. 39% of those runs, I think it's 123 of them, have resulted in either, so of just his runs, have resulted in either running out of bounds. Only 2 of them were actually a slide. He's only slid technically twice, but so out of bounds, slide, or falling forward and giving himself up. That's the one he does very commonly, where he just flops down on the ground.
You could probably just lump those in with slides to some extent, right?
He's not a good baseball slider. I think he's kind of awkward about that.
Yeah, where he falls forward.
Yeah, he just falls forward, and so that really is a slide to me. But some guy on Twitter was like, Lamar Jackson's only slid twice out of 320 carries. I was like, come on, bro. Like, he falls down all the time. Anyway, so 39% of those carries were one of those, non-hit, as I qualified it. Then 10% of his carries, 33 kneel downs. Actually, I need to tweak that one. So 33% or 33 kneel downs over his 295 carries. So I actually need to go in and fix my article. That is a good point. But 33 of those were kneel downs, which is a little over 10%, which means that around 50% of his runs are no hit, out of bounds, kneel down, giving himself up, one of those. So then we're just talking about quarterback runs. Obviously, he blows everyone out of the water. So I went and looked at pass plays as well. He has taken 39 sacks and 75 quarterback hits over his 22 NFL starts. For comparison, Russell Wilson took, let me see, I have it in front of me. Russell Wilson took 50 sacks. Where do we have it? Great radio right now. 48 sacks and 111 quarterback hits. So Jackson in total, over his 22 starts, has taken 264 hits, which is a total of 12 hits per game, where Russell Wilson took 48 hits and 111 total quarterback hits, 48 sacks, and that's just as a passer. So Russell Wilson takes about 10 hits per game as a passer in 2019. Lamar Jackson takes 12 total. That's just of Russell Wilson's passing only. Deshaun Watson as well. Deshaun Watson in 2019, 15 games and took 44 sacks and 86 hits. So what I drew from is that Lamar over 22 career starts has taken 39 sacks and 75 quarterback hits. Both Wilson and Watson blew those out of the water in 1 year alone. So just 6 games, way more hits for Wilson and Watson. And then, as I said previously, data shows that a quarterback hit is a more dangerous hit than the hit that occurs when you run with the football, designed quarterback run or a scramble. So it just really balanced out. And long story short, they all take the same number of hits. And in the end, I wrote an article, I'll just sum it up, is that every hit is different. Every quarterback's hit. I wrote that, Alex Smith, Joe Theismann, Joe Flacco, Tom Brady, and Robert Griffin III will all do, it only takes one hit. Whereas RG3 was kind of more 10 hits, but it just takes one hit. It can happen in the pocket. It can happen whenever. And so the sentiment of my piece in the end is that enjoy Lamar Jackson while he's happening. He has incredible spatial awareness and vision. He takes care of himself. He does take a lot of hits. Too many hits, the Ravens should tone it down a little bit, but it's not. Other quarterbacks are getting hit like 1 or 2 less times per game just based off of passing alone. So enjoy it. Enjoy a spectacular player. I think that, the common phrases when Lamar Jackson exploded on the scene at Louisville were, things like, oh, he's the next Mike Vick, things like that were, oh, that's not sustainable. He takes too many hits, but he really does in the end.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been, speaking of Cam Newton, we've been making that comparison a lot recently where we feel like he could maybe go on to have a career like the one that Cam had in Carolina, which people might decry that a little bit, but Cam had an MVP season. He made it to a Super Bowl that he very well could have won, had a couple of bounces gone his way, and a lot of successful seasons there under Ron Rivera. You also mentioned the Wilson and Watson thing. What do those two guys have in common that they do not have in common with Lamar? Two front offices that are completely negligible or negligent as far as putting competent offensive linemen in front of them. They just get absolutely hung out to dry every single year. I know the Texans have tried to patch it up a little bit there with Tunsil, but we'll see what happens in that sense. But those two guys just absolutely not taken care of in the same way that Lamar is offensive line wise. He might not have the weapons that those guys do or have had, but ultimately I think having that offensive line in front of him is going to help with the inside the pocket hits that you're mentioning. And we've also harped on over time. This is something Matt Waldman has also kind of called to attention for us, is that he is very different as a runner in the way that he does not take contact in the way that a lot of other running quarterbacks do and did. Like in RG3 in his prime, even when he was healthy, he was still, every time he got hit, it was like a car wreck. Like they're just, limbs flailing everywhere and just like not a good situation with Lamar.
It was pads and helmets hitting pads and helmets. It wasn't like, with Lamar, you just see a lot of like pulling him down and kind of like just trying to trip him up and pushing a little bit. Like there's so few square hits when you watch Lamar Jackson play.
Yeah, I think he has a weird, uncanny ability to kind of make himself small in those situations where he's just kind of becomes a little more lithe, a little more flexible, and he just advances the ball forward as he falls, and it just kind of goes about his business. It's not really a situation where he's trying to play hero ball every single time. So I think that helps. I think he's a very smart runner in that sense. And like I was hitting on there, I think he's well protected up front in the offensive line. So ultimately, very excited about his prospects over the next decade in that sense. Like you mentioned, I think the mobile quarterbacks getting hurt and, all this stuff happening, there's some validity to it, but a lot of it, like I mentioned earlier, can be freak injury scenarios where, you break a leg or you tear an ACL or something like that. There's not a whole lot you can do about that kind of stuff, unfortunately. You just got to sort of play smart and do your best to make sure that it doesn't happen. And I think with the way that Lamar currently plays, he's set up well so that it doesn't. I mean, absolute knock on wood situation, but I think he is set up pretty well based upon all the things that we had already been talking about. And then this study and this due diligence by you, I think it's tremendous stuff, buddy. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And, we mentioned Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's a guy who's had 2 surgeries to repair torn ACLs. And go look at the playoffs, go look at the late last season. He was making tons of plays with his legs still, diving into the end zone, making crazy touchdown runs, all sorts of stuff. So it's one hit. It, to me, is just more about having, a good recovery, a good rehab. Injury, I feel, is inevitable. Tom Brady, has torn an ACL. Never was a mobile quarterback. It happens. It happens to pretty much everyone except for Eli Manning and Brett Favre. And, there's a couple other quarterbacks you can throw in there. Phillip Rivers had to play a damn AFC championship on one leg with a torn ACL. It's part of the game. It happens. It's going to happen. 98% of the players that play the sport as a professional, they're going to get hurt. They have been hurt.
It happened to Deshaun Watson as a rookie, and he came back as good as new, if not better.
Exactly.
With a
So,
similar playing
there's
style to Lamar.
exactly. And, Watson, not as much with the design stuff, but scrambles at a higher rate than Lamar does. Um, it's still too many hits at the same time because none of what the article talks about or that information can account for, like we said, Cam Newton and the toll that it takes on your body over years and adds up. And that's something that's difficult to qualify or quantify, and I'm not going to. But in that sense, you want Lamar to you want your offense to transition away from him having to take these hits, and you want to transition it uh, doing that while still maintaining the threat of his speed and his open field ability, not pushing it in games or situations that might not be as important all the time, and just trying to be conscious of it because, I mean, yes, 50% of his rushing attempts don't end in a hit, but 50% do, and that's a lot of hits, a lot of contacts, a lot of limbs flying around, and if you want him to be a franchise quarterback, you want him to be a $200 million quarterback, and all that stuff. You got to be conscious of it now if you want him to be good when he's 30. But at the same time, you want to win a freaking Super Bowl. And, I'm sure Cam Newton probably would give, maybe I'm wrong here. I'm not the guy, but, maybe he would be happy retiring if he were able to win that Super Bowl.
I
Maybe
think
he would
so.
be, yeah, maybe he would feel better, more accomplished, less motivated. Whatever. If he won that Super Bowl, if he did dive for that ball, let's say Cam dives on that ball, gets it back, the shoulder injury happens there, the Panthers go on to win the game.
Honestly, I
Do
think
you
that
think
whole
he's
thing is a little overstated. Like that happened and it was not great, but they were probably going to lose the game even if he did.
Oh, no. I don't think that had anything to do with them losing. I'm just saying, like, that's the narrative. And, like, hypothetically, let's say, Cam can choose injury and the Super Bowl over no injury. He'll probably take the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Super Bowl and retire now as opposed to go and play in New England, or not win it and get an MVP and have all that success. But now you're kind of searching for a ring and not turning into a journeyman necessarily, but you're going to be on your second team. So it's an interesting scenario for sure. So you do have to take care of yourself as a young mobile quarterback in these unforgiving NFL streets.
And that's why RG3 is there as a constant reminder. So, and you go and if you Google RG3 taking hits, there's like a 3-minute video of him from his rookie year. And it's worse hits than you've ever seen Lamar take. But at the end of the day, only one hit. It just takes one hit. And that is the sport of football. It doesn't matter what freaking position you play, where you are, anything of the sort. You can go down at any time. You can go up at any time, up, down, left, right, all that good stuff. So enjoy it while it's happening. Hopefully the Ravens are, I'm sure that they're conscious and competent towards things. Harbaugh last year said something along the lines of, I'd bet the over on Lamar breaking the rushing attempt record. This year, different sentiment. So, they're conscious of, they see the developments as a passer. If Lamar, wasn't an MVP pass last year, wasn't a NFL leading guy, if he average, mediocre passer at best, maybe you're a little bit more like, all right, run the rock. Let's do the damn thing. See what we can get out of a year or two of it. But it's not the case. Dude can make plays with his arm. Keep going that way. Trend that.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Nope. Get us out of here.
Okay, really appreciate everyone listening. A little bit of a thin week for you on our front, but I do believe the Flock Talk came out with an episode. So we got our 2 episodes of content in for a week. Hope you guys enjoyed both of them as we head into this 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there, guys. If you're going to the beach, whatever you're doing, practice social distancing because I can't take any more of Eeyore Schultz over here. Just completely bringing my mood down because of COVID. Okay.
It's too late.
Okay.
Destiny is written. It's too late. COVID second spike coming. You heard it here first. But it's all good in the hood.
I've been rewatching The Sopranos, and his therapist talks to him about how he has this complex where he's just sees everything as predestined, and he's just too gloomy about stuff. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Fate is not renewed.
You can call me that, but to me it's just foresight, baby. Just good old foresight.
Come on, Eeyore, let's go play.
Oh man.
No. Why are you always so sad? I have a nail in my anus. It's a great Family Guy cutaway.
Yeah.
But here I am getting us out of here in a very cheery mood for this holiday 4th of July weekend. Like I said, be safe, be healthy, call your parents, wear a mask, do all that good stuff. If you're going to the beach like Lord Spen Powers here, be sure to wear a mask, social distance, do all the necessary precautions that we need to have football in the fall. We really appreciate you guys listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to it. If you're not already, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Follow us on social media. You can follow the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow me at Jake Lukes. That's LOUQUE. And you can follow Spencer at Ravens for Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle. Really appreciate you guys. Have a great holiday weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll talk to you very soon.
Peace.
All right. Nice job.